What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode on The Relentless Life. My name's Chance Galloway, your host of this show, and today I have the honor of bringing on Mr. Brian Sanders, who I actually stumbled across on Instagram three weeks ago, and shortly after that, had asked him to come on to the show to discuss what he does. He is an extremely interesting individual. And he actually has many accolades to his name. He's a filmmaker behind the feature-length documentary Food Lies. He is also the host of his podcast, Peak Human. He graduated from UCLA with a degree in mechanical engineering, currently works as a health coach at Evolve Healthcare, while also co-founding the health education company Sapien. He also actively works to spread the awareness of regenerative agriculture and increase access to well-raised animal products through his company Nose to Tail. Brian, it's an honor to have you on today, man. I'm excited to get some of these questions answered and get it to the audience of The Relentless Life. Welcome.
Thanks, Chance. Yeah, I mean, this is my passion, is spreading this word. So let's do it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to go forth with this. So as a culture, the culture that we live in this Western civilization, there are just so many unnecessary diseases and chronic inflammatory diseases that we live with. Why do you think this is? Why do you think we're living the way that we live as this culture?
Well, it's a long story. And yeah, I started the beginning. And for the film and through all my interviews, I've gone back to the beginning of time and human evolution, and back when, primates to Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and Neanderthals, and all the paths. And, we were a lot healthier back then. And then we got really obsessed with modern society and technology and progress and convenience and comfort. Mm-hmm. And now, I mean, that's really it. We just strayed away from our natural diets and lifestyles, and we eat processed foods that are cheap and easy. And it isn't much more difficult than that, right? And people who just go back a little bit to the way we used to live and eat find immediate success and results and health. And so I think of all the things, people, think there's lots of factors. Mm-hmm. And I think that what you eat is the most important factor. And then there's a few other simple lifestyle things that we can get into as well.
Absolutely. What would some of those lifestyle things, as you just mentioned, be? What would that be?
I mean, it's just simple stuff like movement. I mean, you don't have to go lift weights and be a bro. You just need to move. You can go on a walk. You can do anything. Sleeping well, right? I mean, sleeping is a foundation of your health. And it's really interesting that people are finding it's one of the most important things. Some people think, you can just get by. Oh, I just get by with 6 hours of sleep. That's a bad idea. That's how you're going to get Alzheimer's, and there's going to be some problems down the road. So,
absolutely.
Getting out in the sun too, just
absolutely
being outdoors. Yeah.
So, Brian, would you say that food could be used as medicine?
Yeah, well, absolutely. It's kind of a cheesy term, but it really is. It's like what you eat affects your body the most. Think about like actual medicine. You're taking like a tiny little pill, and then think about pounds and pounds of food that you eat every day. Mm-hmm. Like that's what affects you a lot, right? This food is constantly interacting with your body. It's giving you signals. It's changing your hormones, changing all the things in your body. So I think, yes, food is the most important thing, and it heals people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, my mom, I might be jumping ahead here, but my mom has systemic lupus. Mm-hmm. And this is something that I wanted to touch on today, just because I worry about her. She's going to be 56 this year, and she's active, but she doesn't take into account her nutrition. She doesn't take into account the food that she puts into her mouth. And I get on her every time that I go over to her house and I see the pack of donuts next to the refrigerator and the ice cream in the fridge and, the pastries next to the oven. And I say, Mom, why do you keep buying this? Why do you keep, when you know that you should not be consuming these refined sugars, these processed grains, it's killing people. It's causing type 2 diabetes, and it's feeding your lupus. What would you say to somebody like that who just can't seem to give those things up? Like, how much of an
Mm,
impact that food is having on her health, on people like that.
well, it's the number one thing. I think it's hard to make a change. I think they're designed to make you addicted to them. I think food addiction is a real thing. Some people
Hmm.
say it's not. I think it definitely is. And
Absolutely.
it's part of our culture though. So it's really hard to go. So you have to go against your instincts. We're wired to want these sugary, fatty foods combined with all the processed flavors, ingredients. So you have to go against your nature. You have to go against society, to go against everything,
Hmm.
your friends, family, and your intuition to to be healthy. And it's a bit hard in the beginning, but it's actually not bad once you get going, right? It's the transition is hard, but once you're out on the other side and you get rid of those and you feel amazing and you see all these results, then it's easy because I'm here eating amazing meals. I ate a big plate of bacon, I had fried cheese, fried halloumi, I had avocado, eggs, sauerkraut. I mean, it was the most indulgent meal I could think of, but
Yeah.
it's healthy. It's like I'm not thinking about a donut. I am eating an amazing meal. So
Yeah.
you just have to feel the results for yourself and kind of unlearn what society's set you up to fail with.
I think that's a really good point that you just made. It's what we were taught as kids, the food pyramid. We're taught to eat the wrong things, we're putting the wrong things at the bottom of that pyramid. And just go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what the whole film's about. I
Yeah.
just want to get people a little more background about myself. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I went through
please.
my own personal journey, changing my life. I was just a normal active guy. I turned 30.
Hmm.
I lost both my parents, right, to
Wow.
these chronic
Didn't know that.
diseases.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
So I'm 30. I can't eat whatever I want anymore. I'm, getting like out of shape and just like everyone else, everyone's just like, "Oh, you have a dad bod." Like that's what happens when you're 30. I'm like, "No, that's not what
Whoa.
happens." Now, I just changed a few things in my diet. Have I dropped 4 pant sizes. So I mean, it's not like I was a fat guy, but
Right.
now I'm just completely different in my body composition and in my health. All these things went away, like chronic overuse injuries and inflammation and allergies and just a million aches and pains and this and that you think is normal. It's not normal.
No.
So, and then I went on this journey I'm doing this for 6 years, but I've done this full time for 3 years, making the film and talked to 200 experts around the world, top people in their field, interviewed
Wow.
them. And so just for people listening, I'm not the expert. I am the communicator from the experts. And I really think I put a lot together, over talking to all these people.
Hmm.
And I'm trying to just make it easy for people to figure out.
Absolutely. Now, on that topic of your documentary, I have not. Is it out yet?
No, it's
Is it?
not out yet. No,
You're
it's
working on
been,
it.
yeah.
It's a long project. Talk a little bit more about that and just the whole process of going about doing that. It's
Yeah.
a big deal.
Well, I kind of had to just, quit my job and
Wow.
just dedicate my life to it. And, I saved money. I was looking for something and I found it. Right. And
Mm.
it's been a long journey. I've learned from so many people and we're covering so much. So the film, I kind of talked about in the beginning, we're starting back at the beginning of human history. 5 million years, we kind of started splitting off. 3.5 million years ago, we started getting more access to animal foods
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
our bodies started changing. Our guts changed because we're eating the more nutrient dense animal foods and our brains got bigger. We just veered away from our primate ancestors, and it was all because of animal foods. And this, I was like, whoa, I couldn't, I didn't know this was a story because everyone is telling me to eat plants. Like I just moved away from LA,
Okay.
and the land of vegans, and everyone's obsessed with eating kale salads and stuff.
Yep.
And I just realized that that's not true. That's not the way humans were meant to be. We didn't have Whole Foods, the store Whole Foods. We
Yeah.
had real Whole Foods. We didn't have the store Whole Foods with all their bogus,
Hmm.
vegan products, processed foods, or even just
Impossible Burger.
Possible Burger, or even
Hmm.
just an array of a million fruits and vegetables year round. That's not what
Hmm.
we had.
Hmm.
We had what our environment gave us, and
For a certain period of time.
yeah, we ate seasonally. We hunted animals. We ate all kinds of animals. We ate them nose to tail. We're veering off track a little bit. We can get into all this stuff later, but yeah,
There is a lot of.
the film is covering all of that. Our whole our whole rise throughout human history eating the animal foods, and then there was actually decline. So people are like, oh yeah, but we've been eating like grains for 10,000 years. The ancient Egyptians were, thrived on grains. Like, no, they didn't. They fed them to slaves that built the pyramids, and they actually had, that's the first cases of heart disease, and we found like atherosclerosis
Wow.
in the mummies. We dig
Wow.
people up, and so and once we started eating all these grains and we settled down for agriculture, we got shorter, less robust, more disease, smaller brains.
Bigger
It,
guts.
we yeah, everything. It all went down since we started settling down into these civilizations and eating these grains and stuff like that. But that's like part of the the onward motion of society, right? We got more technology, so it's like we're fighting this battle, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where the rest of the film goes. We look through the whole history of why do we have the food pyramid? Like, why did we think saturated fat is bad? Why do we think cholesterol is bad? Because now we have so much science disproving that, just no one knows about it. So we're trying to show this, bring it to light. It's like, hey, we have new studies showing that cholesterol isn't bad. That saturated fat is not bad for you. And I mean, we pretty much conclude the opposite. It's like the base of the pyramid, like you said, is the thing that are killing us. It's like 6 to 11 servings of grains and pasta is what's killing us.
It's terrible. These studies that you're referring to, are they a lot of the same studies that were probably mentioned in Paul Saladino's book, The Carnivore Code? Like, are they
Yeah.
all probably along the same
Yes,
realm?
there's so many. Yes, he sent me his book. He's a good friend of mine,
That's
and
cool.
yeah, we've been on the same path, and been friends for a couple of years now. And
Right on.
he's got a lot figured out, and it's great that he's kind of got the book out before the movie, before
Yeah.
my film. He'll be in it. Yeah, we're interviewing.
I saw I saw it on YouTube, or I saw the picture, and he was in the. There was like
Yep.
12 of you up there. I think Sean Baker might have been up there too.
Yeah, we interviewed Sean Baker first. We interviewed him
Did you?
before he went on Joe Rogan in 2017. I got him 2 days before he went on Rogan.
That's
Uh,
cool.
Way long time ago. So yeah, it was. So I guess I've been working on this 3.5 years. It's a long process. Well, the Game Changers, that stupid vegan film, took 5 years.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, these things take a while. But yeah, all these studies, there's great people you can look up. Nina Teicholz wrote a great book about all these studies.
Would you maybe be able to send me like your top 5 or 6 studies that are supporting? I know you're doing a whole lot of different like interviews and there's like a lot
Yeah.
to it, but maybe if you could send like a handful so I could put in my show notes for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
There's big things. Yeah, just if also for listeners, just Nina Teicholz, A Big Fat Surprise. She wrote a book. She's
yeah,
been almost 10
I have
years.
that. I have the book
Okay,
in my
good.
library.
She's in it. She's like one of the main people in the film, and
Okay.
there's just a lot of science. And we're gonna put up all in the film. We're gonna put up a little number on the screen each time there's a study. So there's gonna be 100-something studies that are
Wow.
gonna pop up in this film, and so people know that they can go look it up. And when vegans try to debunk it, we're gonna have an entire list of these studies. So
Yeah. My sister, she's a vegan, and that's what's it's an interesting household. We all work together in our family roofing company, and her and I have been bumping heads since I've been on this carnivore thing the last 3 months and really diving into my health. But she's full blown carnivore, or I'm sorry, vegan, and maybe we can get that in a little bit later in the podcast. I don't want to dive too deep into that right now. I know that's super controversial.
Yeah.
But I know that in your documentary, that's vegans and vegetarians, you're going to get a lot of hate and a lot of backlash from them.
Well, yeah, we're kind of debunking all their films as we lay out our story of what the real science shows and the real evolution story. I mean, it's rock solid when you look at it. Like we're doing all sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're doing like evolutionary science. We're using biomedical, like the human physiology. We're looking at the newest like randomized controlled trials. We're looking at doctors, all the stuff, and the vegan arguments kind of just fall apart. So. So just to finish off the film, kind of the map. So we go through the history of the bad science we did, and then we move on to explaining all types of diets, understanding nutrition, and then we go to agriculture, like how to do this properly, and we talk about the regenerative ag. So yeah, that's the film.
Yeah, that's I'm excited for when it comes out to not only be able to learn from it, but also pass that on to people like especially my family, people that I
Oh
care
yeah,
a lot about. And I think that's what I like so much about Paul and now learning about you and your story is that you guys aren't just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your friends and your followers and people who want to change their lives for the better. And I think that
absolutely.
it's just such a cool cycle, trickling down effect. So
That's the goal.
that's it, man. That's it. So moving on, I liked everything that you just had to say about that. Like I said, I'm really excited
Mhm.
to watch that documentary. Um, but we were discussing before I hit that record button about tribes like Hadza, the Maasai out in Tanzania. How could they set the example or lead as an example to our American society or Western civilizations?
Yeah. So as part of the film, we went out there last month
Hmm.
and we spent time with the Hadza and the Maasai in Tanzania, and we went over to the Pygmies in Uganda. Uh, and it's all kind of the same story. It's you can really see what they used to eat, and they used to be healthy, and they were eating a lot of animal foods and just natural plants that they could find, and they were very healthy, robust. They This is the same story for all three tribes I mentioned. Very robust. They lived long. We hung out with a lady who was said to be 120 years old. There was people, there's a guy in his 70s like running up mountains and talking about his dad who was 110 and a Maasai guy. There was these people, they're so robust and so healthy for so long, and they didn't had no chronic diseases, and then they drop dead at whatever age.
Yeah.
And then same thing with all three cultures is they moved away from that. They modernized. The pygmies got kicked out of the forest. They can't live as they used to, and they're forced to eat just random grains and mush and this thing called ugali.
Hmm.
And they just immediately their health declines. And so they're in the in between though. So you can see these cultures where their health decline, but they don't have like rampant chronic disease yet. But see, America and the westernized cultures were already there. So you can
Hmm.
see the path that they're on. So it was
Hmm.
really cool to see that firsthand, talk to them, hunt with them, eat with them. And some of them kind of could figure out what was going on. Some of them were saying, "Oh, we don't trust the modern foods in the grocery store. We don't." They're putting in these cooking oils. They're getting all these seed oils, and we don't like those. And some people didn't know. Some people, the propaganda was already making it to them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we have a doctor in the village that says that meat is bad for us." And I was like, "Well, you just told me that your grandpa was 110 and he was eating blood, meat, and milk,
Hmm.
every day."
Yeah.
So, and they just don't get it. There's that cognitive dissonance. And it's hard because they're like, oh, but the doctor knows everything. This guy's like drives a car and is in a suit and he's a doctor. And I'm like in a hut. Like, no, you know better. Your family knows better.
You're the example. They've
Yes.
been doing it for so many years.
Yeah.
That's so crazy. I would love to be able to do what you're doing, what Paul's doing. I'm a bit
Oh,
young.
yeah. We overlapped with Paul for one day. He was supposed to come with
That's
us. Yeah.
I feel like I'm hearing this story twice because actually
Yeah.
just yesterday I was listening to that experience of you over there,
Uh
and
huh.
that's you just missed him. You like overlapped one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's too funny. Did you get to see him out there or no?
Yeah. Yeah. We were staying. He was supposed to continue on, but there's a few reasons why he had to go home. So,
Sure, sure. He's in Costa Rica, I think now. He's been
yeah. Yeah.
catching some waves down there.
Yeah.
Moving on, what are some must-have key nutrients in your diet? Like if you had to name a good
Yeah. Well,
handful of must-haves.
Well, really, it's hard to just name the specific nutrients,
Yep.
but I mean, really, it's the ones that come from animal foods are the really important ones. So, like the fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K, these are
Mhm.
some of the most important vitamins, and B vitamins, right? The B vitamins are in meat. Like red meat is where you get all your B vitamins. These are super crucial. And then the fat soluble ones, A, D, E, and K, are the ones that are in animal foods. Like the plant foods actually only have the precursors of those. So
Mhm.
people
Yeah.
think, oh, like carrots, like I'm
Vitamin
getting so
A.
much vitamin A. I'm like, no, you're not. You're
No,
getting beta carotene,
not
which
retinol.
which which a lot of people can't even convert well. So I mean, even if you're like good at converting it, there's like 12% conversion or something. I don't remember the numbers, but
Right.
it's not the real vitamin A that you get from animal foods. And same thing with other fat soluble vitamins. And So yeah, these are huge, especially in COVID times. Like vitamin D, getting out in the sun. You can get vitamin D from some animal foods. You cannot get them from plant foods.
Mhm.
Um, Zinc is an important one too. Just another one from animal foods. Eating oysters, stuff like
Yeah.
that is really good. Good
What
for your immune
about
system.
magnesium?
Magnesium, absolutely. Magnesium, vitamin D, um, zinc, like these are huge, and they work together. Vitamin K2, D, and magnesium work together, and you need all of them. And magnesium is a bit harder to get, especially these days, even with plant foods. So,
Yeah,
so the soil is really depleted, and
it is.
so you're not actually getting tons of magnesium from the foods like we used to. But yeah, I mean, some people you could supplement with magnesium if I'm not into supplements really, but if you were to, I'd say magnesium is a good one.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I'm not really into either. I just I was before. I was kind of big into bodybuilding, and you know how all those guys are. They're always
Yeah.
on every whey protein supplement and creatine, and I kind of got away from that. And just recently, I started up on Paul's Heart and Soil beef
Mhm.
organs. I'm gonna try it out. I got the subscription, so if I'm thinking for $50 a month to get those whole vitamins that come from the organs, you
Yeah.
know,
No, that's
um,
great. Paul sends me those. We have a
does it
good little system going, and
nice?
I have.
How do you like them?
I think it's great. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't always eat so I have my own thing called nose to tail. So
yeah. I
we have
was
like we have like little complementary businesses, but I
cool.
have like meat that you can. We have ground beef that has all the organs in the ground beef. So if you get them there, but I mean, I can't always eat that. You
Hmm.
know, it's like it makes sense to have these pills. When you're
Yeah, it's
traveling, or if you're not going to eat. Some people just aren't going to eat liver.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. I just started eating it a couple weeks ago, and if you're not used to the taste, it can be a bit much.
Yeah,
Even my girlfriend, when I was cooking it on the stove, she was not too happy with me. Let's just say.
yeah. It is
I
a little
was
weird.
I
It is
was
a
taking
little
out
weird.
the whole, and just the consistency of taking it out of the pack and putting it on. It's not like a steak.
No, it's
You know,
weird.
it's
But
weird. Yeah.
it's like our this theme of our ancestors knew better. It's the same thing with liver. I mean, I know my grandparents used to eat liver. Like liver and onions was a meal. Like in the 50s, it's like get
Mhm.
your liver and onions.
Yep. Yep.
And yeah, I mean it's for real.
Yeah. Moving on, Brian. Are we consuming as a culture? Are we consuming too many refined carbohydrates, sugars? Like I know we kind of talked about that a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
like, are we
It's
are we truly consuming too many grains and too many carbs?
yeah. I mean, I think it's almost not even controversial to say that. I know there's different camps that will say different things, but I think when it really comes down to it, there's three main things that we're over consuming and are screwing us. And it's the sugar, refined grains, and the vegetable oils.
Mm,
And so some people know about some of those. I mean, I think most people kind of understand that sugar's bad for them,
hmm
but they eat it anyway. But it's like, oh yeah, but it's good, and I want to eat it. I'm like, all right, well, at least people are cutting down on it. But I mean, a lot of people don't know the refined grains. It's like pasta, like bread, like these things are not good for you. I mean, you can
Yep.
get by on them, and or maybe if you eat them in a small amount, like once in a while. I mean, I'm gonna eat a pizza if we're out and I'm going to someone's house, I'll eat a pizza, but I don't care about pizza normally. I eat
Right.
my good whole foods and I cook for myself. And then once in a while I do it. But the problem is, like you said, we're eating way too much of them. They're everywhere. Not every single, I can't speak in absolutes. I forget the number. It was like 80 something percent of the grocery store is
hmm
made up of just sugar, flour, oil. It's like the just different
It's
combinations.
insane. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different combinations of these things. And it's just in packages and boxes and it's just not good.
And like
And
90% of it's like derived from corn.
it's just corn, wheat, and soy. It's
Yeah.
these cheap subsidized crops. It's kind of like there's like these rulers just like throwing slop to the masses.
hmm
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like it's kind of like factory farming, which I don't agree with. It's like we have a pig farm and we're just throwing them the cheapest slop.
hmm
That's kind of what's going on. These Bill Gates type people like buying up the land, just giving us like impossible burgers and this fake meat, and it's not healthy, but it like keeps people alive,
Yeah.
right? And it's delicious. So that's kind of the problem. You don't see the problems right away, right? You can still eat. It's not like you eat, a sandwich and or like
You're
Doritos.
obese or you have diabetes.
Yeah, no, it takes a long time,
20
and I
years.
saw that in Africa too. They weren't eating fast food. They didn't have soda, like especially in Uganda. They couldn't afford any packaged foods. They ate whole foods,
Yeah.
but they got the seed oils in, and they got this corn flour in, and they started getting really healthy. These women over 45 were obese. They look like giant American obese women, and everyone else in their culture younger that's healthy and strong, but it catches up to you. So it's, you know what I mean? Some people like, oh, it's just junk food, it's just a choice. People are going to McDonald's and they're eating junk. No, there was dozens of women in this market. Like it seemed like all of the women over 45 were
Mm.
obese, and they did not have McDonald's, and they didn't have soda, they didn't have junk food.
Hmm.
They had oils, and they had refined grains, which is the corn, refined flour.
Yep. And I feel like people don't actually understand when you read an ingredient list, like what those long words, xanthan gum,
Mm.
maltodextrin, all of these long words, what is that? But most people don't even take the time of the day to read an ingredient list. I mean,
Well,
it's
yeah. Well, the best thing to do is to not buy foods with an ingredient lists,
yeah,
right? I mean, you just buy
whole foods.
unbranded foods. There,
Yeah.
you don't need a brand. I mean, you can have a brand, I guess, but just don't have ingredient lists unless it's just all whole foods on the ingredient list, I
Hmm.
guess.
Yeah. Now, with what you do with your nose to tail company is obviously kind of similar to what Paul. I know I keep referring back to Paul just
Yeah,
because I've been really studying him,
it's
and
okay.
everything else is because he's kind of, as of right now, the
He's
kind of a top dog. You know,
he's the
a lot.
man. Well, he made it
He's
on
the
Joe
man, yeah.
Rogan. He made it on Joe Rogan's
And the
podcast.
doctors. He was on the doctors, and he kind
Yeah,
of showed them up. That was a
yeah.
interesting interview for those of you guys listening or watching that haven't seen that. I got a good kick out of that, man. That was crazy. I couldn't believe that they were trying to make him look the way that they were posing him out to be.
Mm.
Like he was trying to manipulate people's health, and it was
Well, it's
disgusting. I
insane.
mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's insane. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's all part of the system, right? There's this big machine, and they're part of
Hmm.
the machine. So these are these
I'm glad you said
doctors,
that.
these like fake doctor, TV doctors. Their
Yep,
show is
Hollywood.
paid. Well, yeah, their show's paid for by the food companies. I know people. I have personal friends that were kicked off of shows. They were uninvited because the advertisers said no. They're like, "You're gonna have some woman come on and talk about how processed foods are bad, and
Hmm.
we're Kraft Foods. Like we're trying to sell you guys breakfast cereals. You can't have this woman on the show." It's the same thing. Who do you think funds the TV shows? It's the
Yeah,
advertisers, and all the advertisers are the big food companies.
yeah. It's a cycle too, you know. I mean, they feed us these foods, and then in 20 years we develop type 2 diabetes or whatever inflammatory disease that we get, and then Big Pharma steps in and says, "Here, take this drug," and then the cycle repeats, and then
And
you're a
they,
client of
yeah,
theirs for 20 years. I mean, it's
and then they fund the studies. And the big pharma pays for the studies to show it, and then they train the doctors. So now the doctors are like, "Oh, we just got to prescribe a statin, or you just prescribe insulin, and you keep."
yeah.
It's insane, and it sounds like a conspiracy theory when you talk about it, but it's like the truest thing in the world. That
You
there's
just
this
have to
big
actually
system.
put your mind down to it and put the
Yeah,
facts in front of your face. I mean,
but it's not
it's
even a
there.
conspiracy. It's just how business works. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
capitalism. Yeah,
It's
and
business.
but people just don't get it. People need to just see through it. And so I have a whole community. Paul's a community. We're all
Yep.
part of this animal-based ancestral nutrition community, and everyone
Hmm.
sees through it. Right? There's hundreds of thousands of people that now see through this whole big machine and this
Yeah,
big system.
yeah. It's really crazy. It's very scary, and you know that's why I'm glad I stumbled upon it at a young age, and I'm finding people like you, like Paul, Sean Baker, all of you guys who have been into this for many years now, and it's just inspiring to be able to kind of accumulate that knowledge and then pass it on to like I mentioned earlier, that trickling down effect, pass it on to the people that need it, you know,
Yeah,
that that are dying. You know, we're
that's I
dying
mean,
as a society.
you just got to wake people up to it. It's hard, and it's good. You got to start early. 'Cause, I didn't start until I was 31, probably, and yeah, we got to wake people up, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like I said in the very beginning, I have a lot of stuff that I want to touch on. I don't know if we might have to do a part two. Like I said, I don't
Keep going,
know
man.
how much time you got, but
Rapid fire. Let's go. Rapid
that's what I'm
fire.
saying. Rapid fire. So on the topic of we were talking about refined carbs and sugars, and then we kind of snaked out of that. What about honey? I know Paul has been talking about he's incorporating fruits like the baobab plant,
Mm-hmm.
and then honey and other low toxic plants on that toxicity spectrum. What's
Yeah,
your
yeah.
view on all of that?
Yeah, I love that. I've been doing it all along. I'm trying to call this thing sapien. It's like it's not carnivore. It's like paleo, keto, like carnivore. These are all part of a sapien diet, a sapien framework, which includes those foods. It
Hmm.
includes the least toxic plant foods,
Hmm.
and so fruits would be mostly the least toxic plant foods because they don't have a lot of the anti nutrients,
Right.
and some things like avocado. Well, that's a fruit. Honey. There's a few like squash or maybe some just like lettuce, like something simple like lettuce. But I mean, you
Yep.
don't want to be like guzzling kale, like or spinach. Like there's tons of
Oh,
oxalates.
oxalate. Hmm.
Yeah.
I have Sally Norton coming on tomorrow.
Oh yeah, Sally. I was just
She's
emailing with Sally. Huh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
She seems very, very into. She's like I consider her like the oxalate queen. Like
She
everything.
is.
That's all she does is study
She
that
knows.
one.
She'll change. No, she'll change your life because I actually was kind of into that like spinach salad world and like kale shakes, and then I talked to her and never again. Cut it out.
Yeah,
I seriously haven't had anything. I mean, I've had a few leaves since, but I mean, not really.
yeah. Isn't that crazy how once you learn about something and you see like what it can do to the mind and the body, like I'm
Oh
done.
yeah,
I'm done.
yeah.
Yeah. On to the next fasting. Let's just
Fasting
a little
is
bit about let's
amazing.
talk about fasting a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I work with Dr. Gary at Evolve Healthcare. You should
Hmm.
probably have him on too. He's really great.
Okay.
He has said his quote: intermittent fasting is the number one intervention I've ever seen in my medical career.
Hmm.
Number one most powerful intervention that I've used. So any medication, he's saying any medication, anything, fasting, and even just condensed eating window, right? Just eating within an 8-hour window
Yeah.
is the most powerful thing he's seen. And I agree. I do it every day. I do not
Hmm.
eat for 16 hours a day. I eat for eight hours a day. Very easy. I'm not hungry. It's not restrictive.
Hmm.
I eat 2 big meals. You give your body time in that 16 hours, which is a good one. You can go more or less, right? You can uh, give your body time to basically rest and digest.
Absolutely.
And it's just great. A lot of autophagy going on, right? Let your cells repair,
Hmm.
kick out the old ones, out with the bad and with the new, that
Yeah,
type of thing.
what about that? What about intermittent fasting compared to like something like a 24, 48, 72 hour prolonged fast?
Yeah. So
Obviously, health benefits change as you
yeah,
get
yeah, it's
longer
good.
into.
So I don't do a lot of longer stuff personally. I think I'm a little lean for that, and maybe I should do. But yeah, you can get a lot of benefits. I think some of the big benefits start at 24 to 48 hours. You just get deeper autophagy,
Sure.
but even just eating one meal a day, you can. I mean, that's basically a 24-hour fast every day. And I know people, personal friends, great success with that. People all over the world, it's great success. And yeah, once in a while, maybe every quarter, right? Every 3 months, you could do like a 48-hour fast, or
Yeah.
once a year, you can do like a 5-day fast. And religions throughout history have done that, and they did it for good reason. I think they understood that it was very powerful in resetting the body for your immune system, for your cellular repair, everything.
Hmm. Yeah. What about fasting with cancer, Brian? Do you think that that could like? I know that's a whole topic in itself.
That
Cancer,
is, yeah. I mean,
preventing cancer.
I'm no cancer expert, but I've interviewed some, and
Okay.
I think it's a great intervention to be used in conjunction with other things.
Right.
And I think it's super powerful, especially even keto. Like keto diets are a form of fasting while eating, right? Because it kind of puts your body into that same state
Yeah.
of being fasted, but you're still getting nutrition. So I am a big fan of keto and fasting, or both, for cancer. And I'm friends with Dom D'Agostino, who's a PhD who researches ketones and cancers and all this type of stuff. And yeah, I think it's powerful.
It really is. Do you think that like, I guess it depends on the stage of cancer that you're diagnosed with. But do you think that it can be like cured? Like I know there's like a lot of
Yeah,
talk out
yeah,
there.
yeah.
The government has a
Well,
cure, and but
I mean, it's a controversial statement, but I know people, like a personal friend. I just moved to Austin. Logan Sneed has a brain
mhm.
cancer, and he's been doing fasting and keto for don't know, 7 years, and it went away. So
What?
he was like, you have like the doctor's like, you have 8 months to live, whatever it was, 10 months to live. It's been 7 years, 8 years.
And
Yeah,
I guarantee if he didn't fast, he would have been dead
I
by now.
think so. He thinks so, and yeah, I think it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. What about going carnivore? Why go carnivore? Like, why would
Uh,
somebody choose to like take that route? I know you said you're not
I'm
carnivore,
not I'm not
you're
a full on
animal
carnivore.
based.
I just don't like to associate with something because I like to always just stay open to change and new stuff, and or I just don't want to be in a group. Right? If you're
Yeah,
in a group
yeah,
and you're
I
just like,
like that.
oh, I'm in this group.
I'm
No,
carnivore. I'm vegan.
yeah, yeah. No, I think carnivore is powerful. I mean, some people would call me a carnivore. I'm eating, 85 to 90% animal foods in my diet. That's pretty carnivorous. I think everyone that
Absolutely.
I know who's done it has had nothing but positive results. Tons of weight loss. They've got over that food addiction we were talking about. I mean, it's hard with that carb addiction. It's basically like it's like your
It's
gut
an
bacteria.
addiction. You have to
It's
break
an
that
addiction.
addiction.
Well, it's like your gut. It's like you're feeding your gut bacteria these starches,
Hmm.
and they're thriving off it, and they want it. They're controlling you, right?
Hmm.
There's some real interesting stuff about how gut microbiome and the brain connection and all this stuff.
Vagus
And
nerve.
well, you have to get them starved out, right? You have to like stop eating all of them. And that's what carnivore does, right? If you go on a carnivore diet, you're not eating all these any kind of starch, right? Any kind of carbohydrate. You're starving all those bad bacteria, gut bacteria out, and you get a million benefits. And then you stop craving all those carbs.
Yeah,
I mean, you should talk to your mom. You should talk to your family members. It's like
absolutely.
yeah, I've done strict carnivore for little periods off and on, and I did not crave. Usually I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go have a little like whatever dessert or chocolate or honey or something. When I was
Hmm.
doing carnivore, nothing. I didn't care. That gut bacteria like dies out, and you just don't care.
It's such a clean diet. It's a reset. Paul calls it a carnivore reset, and it's for a reason.
Yep.
You know. What about plant toxins like lectins, polyphenols, oxalates? How do all of those, and that's just a few of them, there's many plant toxins in nature, but how do those, obviously they all affect us in different ways. How do those uh, like play a role if we're consistently consuming those plant toxins? How does that play a role on our health?
Well,
I know that's
I
kind
mean,
of like a
yeah,
broad
yeah.
question.
I've seen a lot of bad things from those. I mean, people know about gluten intolerance. That's like the
Hmm.
obvious one, right?
Hmm.
So people know that you can be lactose intolerant, but people don't. So people understand that there's like certain things in foods that don't work well with people. The problem is we just don't understand that there's all these plant toxins that you listed that are giving people all these problems. And if you go carnivore, you're getting rid of all those, and then you find all these things go away. So it really kind of indicates it's not like, well, meat is very special in that it's very nutrient dense and it has a lot to it. But part of the special part of the diet is you're getting rid of all the plant toxin. And so maybe it was lectins, right? So
Could be
maybe you
anything.
have a problem with lectins. You got rid of them. You have all these benefits, but the problem is we don't know how to tease it out, and we don't know how to study it well. And everything that I've learned about all the great experts I've interviewed, it's pointing to these anti-nutrients. Like these are these plant toxins plants don't want to be eaten, and that these are causing all the problems that, not every single problem, but it's like a huge contributing factor. It's just so many problems, especially autoimmune diseases, all kinds of stuff. And yeah, I'd recommend people just start cutting some of these out and start like looking into which plants have the least toxins or traditional preparation methods that get rid of the toxins.
Yeah, yeah. What is your diet like? What does your diet look like being 85-90% carnivore?
Yeah, it's so
Or
I just use
plant based or animal based.
animal based. Yeah, so
Yeah,
I cook with animal fats. So that's actually a lot of calories just from the animal fats that I cook with. I eat meat, fish, eggs. Like just every day, I just eat meat, fish, eggs, and then I have some sides just for variety, for some extra nutrients, for
sure.
flavor, for all
Yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. I have fermented vegetables. Like I said, I talked about my bacon, eggs, avocado, sauerkraut, cheese. That's my lunch, right? So I have this big lunch. It's a high fat lunch. Dinner, it's just like a big steak, lamb, whatever. Just a big piece of red meat, some mushrooms, onions. I kind of just stick to
So
mushrooms.
you're still incorporating things like mushrooms and
Absolutely. I have talks with Paul all the time. I'm like, man, you got to stop hating on all these plant foods. Like,
he
what's
does,
wrong with
yeah.
some mushrooms?
Yeah.
Like he's getting into, some honey, or he's getting into some other things, but mushrooms, I don't see a problem with mushroom. They don't have a ton of anti-nutrients in them. Or like onions. Like some people might have a problem with onions. A lot of people don't. So, but I stick to the simple ones. It's avocado, it's mushrooms, it's onions, it's fermented vegetables. Fermented vegetables, they're fermented. Not only do they have, good probiotic stuff for your gut and that type of thing, but they get rid of the anti-nutrients. That's what our ancestors figured out, is they fermented these things,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't know what they were doing, but they realized, oh wait, we feel better, or we don't get,
When we ferment these
when we
vegetables.
ferment them. Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
that I eat fermented vegetables. I eat a little bit of, non-sugar fruits like pickles or avocado, and some
Okay.
mushrooms. That's all you need.
Yeah,
Animal
yeah.
foods and a little bit of sides.
I like that. That's like what you're preaching is a sapien diet.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Sapien
and
that, and you can do different versions of sapien too.
yeah.
It's inclusive. I mean, maybe you're a pescatarian. I'm not going to recommend pescatarian diets, but I've seen healthy populations that eat pescatarian diets.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're eating all whole foods. They're probably in a different country, and they're doing it really well. But yeah, trying to be inclusive.
Right, absolutely. I mean, essentially what we're trying to do, people like you and I, Paul, a lot of these other people in this community are trying to reap the benefits of living a long, healthy lifestyle and being able
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy, whether it is you believe in God or you just enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
gift of life, of evolution, of being here in this given time. I think that's just such a cool thing that all of us have in common. Um, in regards to like calorie quantity versus calorie quality, I come from a background of counting calories, the
Mm-hmm.
macro, protein, carbs, fats, coming from bodybuilding and stepping on stage. Now I'm transitioning into that micronutrient. I don't really care as much anymore about the amount of calories that I'm getting or where they're even coming from. I'm more concerned about getting that nutrient density in the foods that I consume. And I'm assuming that's
Yeah,
right. That's where
that's
you're at as
huge.
well.
I'm that's a good move on your part. People, it's one of those things that you don't see until later, right? You don't know that you're having nutrient deficiencies. You don't, like, you could be eating. So like the classic bodybuilding stuff is like chicken, like lean chicken breasts, or like rice, or broccoli, stuff like
Broccoli.
that. I mean, that's not that much nutrients. I mean, broccoli does not have a lot of nutrients. It's propped up as a superfood. It's not. Lean chicken breast has nothing really in it but protein, which is good, but you need a lot more than that. And once you start getting to nutrient density, you'll you'll just find there's a lot more to food. It's way more about quality than just like macros or
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Carbohydrates versus fat. The difference.
so most people, 95% of 99% of people are carb burners, and they
Mm,
run carbs, and I don't think it's good. I don't think that's how we're supposed to be. Fat is another fuel source that people don't know that they can use, and because it's been demonized, and it's an amazing fuel source for stable energy. When you eat
mhm,
carbs, you're on this roller coaster of energy, right? You eat some carbs and you crash, and it's like this blood sugar roller coaster, right? And that's how they work. They're this quick energy. And I mean, it's easy to see in science. It's not debated, but that's why they're saying, oh, you got to eat like 7 times a day. No, you don't. I eat 2 times a day, or 1 time a day, or you don't even have to eat, and you
mhm.
don't feel bad. You have consistent energy. Your brain works well. You're running off ketones. Running on fat is the best thing I've ever done. And what's great is you teach your body to run on fat. You get fat adapted,
Mhm.
right? So you can go do keto or whatever carnivore type of stuff for a while, but then maybe you add back in some carbs. You do some, safe carbs and honey, whatever. But at least you're metabolically flexible, and you still are kind of relying on fat as most of your fuel.
Right. Would you say that most like humans are supposed to be running off of fat? Like, do you think that's our
Yeah, I think
ancestral
that's our natural
code?
state. Yeah, I think that's our natural state. I think we used to be hunting giant fatty elephants and
Mhm,
woolly mammoth, and we would run on fat.
mhm. Protein, fat. That's it.
I mean, there's it just
Minimal carb.
minimal. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's there,
Yeah.
but yeah, we didn't have access to tons of it all the time.
I think it just comes down to fat being more of a sustainable nutrient. I mean, it's 2.25 times more dense, right? Calorically speaking.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I think as our ancestors probably
And it's
thought
carrying
that,
around fat. I mean, your body. Think about how your body works. You build fat, and then when you don't have food, you can burn your own body fat.
exactly. Yeah. It's just,
It's there.
it kind of, it's self-explanatory in my
Yeah.
opinion. I mean, like you said, though, there's just some people that might work better on carbohydrates, but I don't know. If you're eating a lot of carbs, I really think it's important to be doing intermittent fasting as
Yeah.
well. So,
Absolutely.
fat loss on a carnivore/carnivore-ish diet. How would somebody who is deemed as obese or overweight benefit from going carnivore or sapien
Yeah.
with fat
Well,
loss?
I mean, it just seems to work. Like,
Yeah.
not everyone has to do it, but everyone who does it does well. If you know what I mean. Like, it's not the only way to lose weight
Sure.
or get healthy, but everyone who does it gets super healthy, and it's super easy. They say that they're satiated, they're full, they enjoy the meals, they enjoy everything, and they naturally lose weight. So I think it's a no-brainer, and we use it in Evolve Healthcare with Dr. Gary, and it's amazing.
Talk a little bit about that with Evolve Healthcare,
Yeah,
with what you do for a living.
Sadly, I had to move away. We're based on LA, but we do it nationwide, like kind of remotely. But I mean, we basically just use the Sapien principles and change people's lives. And it's dead simple. You do everything we talk about in this podcast, some of the other lifestyle stuff, getting out in the sun, and people's lives change. We get emails, we get calls, we get patients coming back. It's like, I don't know. It's just so simple. It's just hard for people to click, but once they click, lights out.
It makes more sense. It makes a lot more sense. I would love to get in contact with some of the, like you had mentioned, Dr. Gary, and maybe some of the other people that you're linked with. Because I think everything that we've talked about so far is just it has to be heard. And even for the people that follow me, my family, my friends, my coworkers, I'm known as like the health nut. Like when I walk into a room, it's like, oh, Chance is here. Like, let me put away my candy bar or my, my coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, that sort of thing. So I'm very excited to share this with them and to tell them to go check our conversation out, because it makes me very happy that I'll be able to provide that to them.
Oh,
and
man.
I want to continue this with, people that you know and that you've spoken to on the topic of health,
Absolutely.
But moving on, coffee. I know that's a tough one for people, giving up coffee. I don't know if I'll ever give it up, but I'm definitely going to, for at least a short while, just to give it a go to see how I feel.
Try it. I might try. I'm okay with coffee. I know a lot of people in the health space, and most of them are completely okay with coffee. And I think I don't know. I mean, if you drink it black, like I'm not going to put sugar in it.
No, no, I'm talking black coffee.
Black coffee. I have no problem with black coffee.
Okay, because I know Paul, some of the stuff that I've read from his findings with the damaging DNA and genetic coding, and I haven't.
No, I know. This is one of our first arguments. He actually came in 2 years ago with me and Dr. Gary, and we had an argument.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was kind of funny. But anyway, I think
that's interesting. So you and Dr. Gary, you guys are both on the same side with coffee, and Paul's kind of on the opposite end?
Yeah. Coffee. I mean, there's 99 problems before coffee. If you got 99 things taken care of, then
coffee's not going to kill you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're doing a lot. I think your body needs a little. Say there's some hormesis going on, right? If your body needs a little stress.
Sure.
And so if you're so pristine and you're eating the most pristine diet,
it's too perfect. You're too.
Well, I mean, then the coffee, you need some stress. You can't be just a leaf blowing in the winds. Like, you're just.
What about cold showers? Can't that be deemed as hormetic stress?
That's great hormetic stress. Cold plunge, cold therapy.
Cold plunges, or
I just did that with Paul's his employees
really?
In Austin the other day, and we went in that was some cold water, man. And then went in the sauna. I think that stuff's amazing. And I
Yeah.
like to, in LA in the winter, I would just go around with um, no shoes, no long sleeves, just on shorts all winter and just walk my dog, get cold, just whatever you can, cold shower, anything you can do. This is natural. This is
Mhm.
healthy. You can build brown fat actually, if which is really healthy for,
Why is that though? That's interesting you brought that
well,
up
brown fat.
compared to white fat.
Ben Bickman, if you heard Dr. Ben Bickman, he's the man, but he gets real deep into this. But it's brown fat. Babies are born with brown fat. It's like it's really dense mitochondrial uh, fat tissue that
Right.
is more active. Basically, I don't know. The simple way to explain it is
It burns more, it turns more.
yes. So you'll burn more calories if you have more brown fat,
Mm.
and it's what people who if you're in the cold a lot, you need it because it stops you from dying. Basically, it helps your body stay warm. So
Yeah, yeah. Whereas the white fat is the fat that you see on somebody who is 300 pounds and has the fat hanging over their
oh yeah,
front or back or under their
yeah,
arms. That's white fat,
yeah.
right? Moving on, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Why eat it compared to a typical grain-fed steak from
Yeah.
Walmart or Sam's Club,
So it's
Costco?
it's better in like many ways. It's kind of like vegans try to say it's like, oh, it's better for the environment, it's better for this, better for that. Yeah, it's kind of that's the answer. It's better in all ways, and
Right.
so there's not tons of science showing how much better it is nutritionally, but except it has a better omega-6 omega-3 ratio. So there's definitely some of those benefits. We're finding out more about it, but it's also you want to do it to support regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's maybe even a bigger thing is if you buy it, then
Yeah.
you support it, and our soil's in trouble. Our like this is a very important issue is to have a future to
Yeah.
really. I mean, the future, like the plant-based future, is so funny how off that is
It
because
is.
plants just take from the soil, animals give back to the soil. So the way for us to feed the world is to use plants and animals together. Yes, to have animals on the land, be part of the system, and so support local farmers that are doing good sustainable or regenerative agriculture.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up, and I'd actually like to just maybe spend a couple minutes on that.
Yeah.
That's something that I don't have in my notes here, but it is something that's extremely important with not just going carnivore, but animal based and eating regenerative agriculture. Not just eating from feedlots, but eating from regenerative agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Dive a little bit into the process of how exactly a cow eats the grass,
Yeah, yeah.
produces the methane, the carbon cycle, that whole thing.
Well, if you're
If
talking
you don't
about
mind.
okay, with the methane thing is sort of wrong. I mean, they
Yeah.
have the whole
Okay.
paradigm wrong, right? So yes, there is a system that's been going on for millions of years. There used to be hundreds of million buffalo roaming the plains or these giant woolly mammoth, where yes, the ruminant animals
Mhm.
eat could be cows, sheep, woolly mammoth. They eat the
Mhm.
grass and they produce methane, burp, and then it goes up and it has a short lifespan and then it comes back into the soil. It's just a harmonious cycle that, yeah, I mean, they say, oh, it's more damage. It's more,
Than cars or than
yeah, no, or just the fact that methane is a higher level of a factor to the environment than CO2. But it doesn't matter because it's part of this natural process and it's short lived. CO2 has like 1,000-year half life. Uh, Methane has, I don't know, is it 10-year half life? It's
wow.
very quick. So it goes up, it comes down. It's part of this natural above ground process. But then you have the real problem when if we're talking about like, global warming, anything like that, whatever you think about it, it's you have these fossil fuels or these things deep in the ground, and then we're burning them in all these other industries, especially to produce plant foods. We're using tons of these fossil fuels, and this is a one-way street. This is
Hmm.
the CO2 that's just going from deep in the ground and then being put up in the atmosphere. Okay, that's this one-way street, and like I said, it's 1,000-year lifespan compared to
Mhm.
10-year. And then the vegans, it's a big distraction technique. Really, it's like a smoke screen, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
Because, like I said, my sister, she's not that it matters, but she's
yeah.
a little younger than me, and I know she'll listen to this podcast. I'll make her listen to this podcast, And Savannah, I don't want you to be mad at me, but I'm just trying to seek out the truth was what I'm doing, Brian. I'm trying to seek
Yeah.
out the truth. I'm a big reader. I listen to podcasts every day. I'm now interviewing people such as yourself who have been in this industry and have been doing diligent research. And I'm just trying to extract the truth. And to me, what you just explained with the carbon cycle and how that's how it's been for thousands of years with wild buffalo on the prairie and the way that they eat grass and they burp and it goes back into the cycle, it just makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when vegans try to put up an argument and back it with this lousiness, it's I don't know. People just follow this trend of.
Well, it is. It seems like it makes sense on a surface level. So what I've found is a lot of the vegan arguments appear to make sense on the surface level, right? You're like, oh, why eat animals when you could eat plants straight? Like, why do we feed the animals and then eat the animals? Why don't we just, right? Well, like, because they're magic. They upcycle nutrition. Like I was talking about these fat soluble vitamins, all these things that are, they do a magic. I call it magic, but because it's so cool, it's not magic, it's science.
Yeah.
They upcycle nutrients. They take low quality food like grass. It's not a food to us. It's just cellulose. It's grass.
Right.
They eat it, or even just corn, and they turn it into. And well, they have 4 stomachs, and they have all this. They're ruminants. It's like that's the fermentation that turns it into these fatty acids, and then their body turns into amazing nutrition for humans, and that's why we eat them, because they provide a very valuable service. And I talked to a great scientist, Dr. Sarah Place, who showed me the study. When you look at protein, because protein is what really matters, we can't just look at calories, because then why don't we all just eat sugar? Because sugar is a very cheap calorie that you whatever, right? So we can't just look at we need to look at protein. So when you look at protein, from what the cows eat over their lifetime, all the protein they eat from this low quality, old distillers mash and leftover products and grass and whatever they eat, even if they're in the feedlot, they double the amount of protein. So they upcycle, they double the amount of protein from what they eat to what we get by eating them. They double the amount of protein. So it is a very efficient system. It is amazing, quote, magical. And they provide a great service. And this is why humans have always eaten them. And we can't just skip that process.
I like how you went about kind of like debunking that in a way without really. I know there's obviously thousands of studies that would debunk that, but that's just very interesting to me, and I'm really glad. Like I said, I didn't bring that up in the notes, but I'm really glad we were able to touch on that, because that is a huge reason to go not like carnivore or animal based, but regenerative agriculture. Like that's because you can be carnivore and just be eating meat from Walmart, and you're not helping the environment at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you eat regenerative beef, I don't think, well, in general, like chicken and pork aren't really raised well. It's hard to find good chicken and pork anyway, but beef, all beef is pretty decent, because, I mean, I don't know if people know this, but all cows spend the first two-thirds of their life on grass, right? So it's not like they're in a feedlot. That is a complete myth. It's completely untrue. That's the most.
Is it really?
100% untrue.
I had no idea.
Yeah, they can't. All cows spend the first 2/3 of their life on pasture. They have to live with their mother. It's a cow-calf operation. So there's different stages. There's a cow-calf operation. They're born on grass with their mom, and then they get to a certain age. Then they move them to a feedlot. But they are on grass for the first 2/3 of their life, doing their thing. So it's good.
That's very interesting. I had no idea. So 66. So for the first 2/3 of their life, they're grazing as if they would in the wild. But that final third of their life, though, getting fattened up.
Yeah, it's a quick.
Grains, that's gonna.
It does a lot. I mean,
turnaround.
Yeah,
it's a very quick turnaround. What about moving on? What about reversing chronic diseases? And I mentioned my mom has systemic lupus, and I talked about diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Going about reversing these chronic diseases.
Well, like I said, with Dr. Gary and I and many other people I know, it happens very easily. I'm not going to just make blanket statements that it's going to happen for everyone. But if you go back to a more ancestral diet, if you go back to just eating whole foods, you're avoiding sugar and flour and oil. These are the 3 things. The whole film is about just how bad it's the sugar, flour, oil. It's the sugar, refined grains, and vegetable oils, the seed oils. You can still eat, avocado oil. Avocado is a fruit. You can have some avocado oil, some coconut oil, some good olive oil.
Paul says to stay away from that even.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I
He's a
actually,
perfectionist though. He's like trying
yeah,
to.
but still, like these aren't the same oils. These are naturally fatty fruits. Like an
Yeah,
olive,
yeah.
you can smash it and you can get oil out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not like
Mm-hmm.
a seed. That most vegetable oils are just, well, all vegetable oils are these highly processed things from things that don't naturally really have oil. you know, so
Yeah.
so if you just do the simple things, you cut out the sugar, flour, oil, you eat natural whole foods. To me, it seems like most diseases can be reversed, stopped, whatever. I mean, this is what I've seen in Africa. This is what I've seen around the world. I've traveled other places. What I see in many doctors' offices, my friends. It's not that hard. It's just, I mean, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard to make the changes, but it's a straightforward thing.
Right. So like for somebody like my mom, obviously like that's her own decision. Like if she wants to live like that, she's gonna live like that. But like if you were my position and your mom had systemic lupus for the last 30 years, like I grew up with her in and out of the hospital. She was
Mhm.
kind of always in and out. It's very scary, because
Mhm.
it's like, is my mom gonna be okay? Like I don't know. And luckily for the last, I think 6 or 7 years, she hasn't really had an episode. She's been in the gym. She's been trying to stay fit, making more healthy choices. She eats Butcher Box now, which is, I'm super proud of her for doing that.
Mhm.
But like, what would you tell me that, how could I go about like
Yeah.
altering
Well,
her?
you're gonna have to listen to this whole podcast. You're gonna have to watch the whole movie. The whole point in the movie is really it.
Right.
So the thing is, you can't just sit down and tell someone. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm making this. Why I've
I like that.
dedicated my life to it.
Right
Is
on.
the best way I can think of. Is it's gonna take 2 hours, and it's not gonna be just 2 hours of me talking to you. It's gonna
No.
take 2 hours of a very well produced film that took 4 years to make,
Wow.
that went around the world, that
That's so
interviewed the
cool.
top scientists. It uses all the studies we could find. It uses great graphics. We're spending a lot of time with the graphics. Has great storylines. It has.
Mm.
That's the best thing I could do. I'm not going to convince everyone, although I have. I've had people over to my house, and someone's like, "Oh, this is my friend. She's a vegetarian." I had this girl walking across the street eating a steak within 45 minutes.
And she was a vegetarian.
Oh yeah, I'm not joking. This girl was visiting LA. She walked to Ruth's Chris,
Yeah.
the steakhouse, and
Yep.
bought a steak after we talked. And yeah, I mean
You put
that.
the fire down.
But
You
yeah,
laid it
it's
down.
just hard. I'd say, I guess, other than watching the whole film when it comes out, you just have to know that it's very simple. It's proven. It's
Mm.
how humans should be, and it's just going to be hard in the beginning. And you just realize it's like detoxing from a drug.
Mm. Yeah. It is. That's exactly what it's like. Like for my mom, it's going to be a sugar detox because she's so
Mm.
in love with having her sweet after dinner every night with her coffee, and it's like that's every night. She's been doing that for years and years and years, and her gut is like, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed
Yeah,
me, and it's gonna be hard to
it's gonna be
break. It's gonna be really hard to break. People do it though. You know,
yeah.
people do it. So we're coming across the last like 6 questions here. We're gonna hit them real quick on the topic of, we were talking vegetarian, vegan. My sister's vegan. Is there now? I can't see you saying yes to this question, but is there a way to be a healthy, quote unquote, healthy vegan
Uh,
or vegetarian? I mean, whatever.
yeah. I don't want to make blanket statements again.
Yeah, yeah.
I personally, we Dr. Gary and we have a hard line in the sand. Dr. Gary was like, we do not recommend a vegan diet. He's like,
Mm,
I will actively tell you not to do a vegan diet. But I mean, it is possible. I think there's a few people in the world that are, not a few people, some people that have the right genetics. Maybe they have a lot of money and a lot of supplementation, and
right.
they work out maybe 2 hours a day. Like some of these elite, like ultra
Yeah.
marathon cyclists or whatever, like rich roll type of characters, some of these
Yep.
vegan characters.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're eating low quality foods. So plant foods are just low quality foods. This is not debatable. It's like animal foods are the higher quality foods. So if you're an athlete that works out for 2 hours a day at least, you can eat more, and then maybe you're eating more of this low quality food, and maybe you can do okay. So you're supplementing all this type of stuff. Like these are the only people that are doing okay, right?
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I'm glad you brought people like that, like Rich Roll up, and because he's a very big name in not just the
Yeah, but the
podcast.
guy has tons of money. He's taking
He's got
tons of
money. He's able
supplements.
to,
Yeah,
yeah.
tons of supplements, working out tons,
But that should
and
show you, though, he's taking all those supplements for a reason. He's not getting it in his nutrition. I mean,
yeah, and who knows what's going to happen to him? I mean, maybe he seems okay now, but I
yeah,
think he could be doing a lot better if he ate some oysters, ate some,
something.
something.
Yeah, but then you got vegans on the other sides talking about animal-based or carnivores that there's no studies backing that, and whatever they want to say. I mean, it's
There's all of human history.
it's really all
Yeah.
period. Like that's it. Period. That's
Yeah.
human history. Period. There's not much more to it. Moving on, muscle meat versus organs. That's one thing just to eat a steak every night and eggs for breakfast. But why? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you incorporate organs. You said
Oh,
that you
no, I
blend it
do.
in
I
in
do.
your meat.
Yeah, I do. I have the organ blend because it's hard to eat something, right? So if
Yeah.
we hide it kind of in the blend, the organ blend, we sell the primal ground beef. But I think this is what I think it's great, and I know this is what all cultures do.
Mm.
There's Weston Price was a dentist that traveled around the world in the 1930s and found all the healthiest people. He was a vegetarian guy. He thought he was going to find a bunch of vegetarian populations. He found a bunch of people, all the populations depended on meat, and they ate organs and fat and seafood and eggs and grass-fed butter, and they were all healthy, and they got the sugar flour oil, and they got unhealthy. It's an amazing story. It's in the book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. Highly recommend it. But yeah, they all ate organs, and I just ate organs with the Hadza. All the healthy cultures ate the organs, and I think you should do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad you brought that up. The
Mhm.
Hadza, you were obviously out there. We talked a little bit in the
Oh man,
beginning.
I
What
had the
was
raw
that?
liver with
Yeah, I
them.
know. Like, I want to hear some of those stories of being. I know you can probably talk for hours
Oh
about that.
man, yeah. I mean, it's forever. We drank the blood and the milk out of the
Yeah.
cows with the Messiah.
Oh gosh.
We drank blood out of the goat they killed. I ate the liver raw. We went hunting with the Hadza. They got a little tik. It's like a little deer,
Hmm.
and they opened it up for us. And immediately there was guts all over it. There was all kinds of gross stuff on the guy's
Yeah,
knife. He's never washed his hands in his whole life. He
that's
just
so
hands me a
crazy.
piece of liver, and I eat it. Never felt better. That whole trip, I felt amazing. I
Really.
think my gut microbiome improved by leaps and bounds from that trip. I seriously like do better with dairy now. Like I think a lot of dairy is like a questionable one, especially if it's not like raw, like really good dairy, which is kind
A2
of hard to
dairy.
get. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but after I don't know, this might be a little crazy, but I think after this trip, I've like can eat any dairy and I'm like kind of okay. Like I
Because
used
you
to have
think
like
that you
I don't
cleansed out
know.
your
Yeah, maybe I
microbiome.
got. But part of this, like gut microbiome, part of immune health and health in general is having, being exposed to things. This
Yeah.
whole like COVID thing, I
Oh,
wasn't doing any precautions, dude. I was like hugging people. I'm never washing my hands. All this type of stuff. Like
yeah.
everyone I know who's done that, zero people have got it. The people who washing their hands, wearing masks like nonstop, these are the people who got it. So very unscientific, but I'm telling you, like you need exposure to things.
Yeah.
That's part of the microbiome.
It is. And those people that you just mentioned are probably severely insulin resistant as well. I have, some sort of metabolic conditioning or,
Yeah.
that they're
Well,
not.
yeah, and they're stuck inside. They're scared. They're not getting vitamin D from the
No
sun.
sunlight.
Yeah, I'm out there doing my thing, get my
Yeah.
sun. I
In the
feel
bush.
amazing. Yeah.
That's so cool, man. And being out there when you cut open that dick, that didn't like, obviously you said it was gross, like him handing
Oh,
you that.
yeah, it all happened in the moment, man.
It
I was
just,
into it. It
you
just
just,
happened. We ate the brains of that thing. They
wow.
roasted the brains, opened up the skull. This little kid was like 11. He's just like, take it and like scoop it. It was like a little yogurt or something. I don't know. It tastes like
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah. That's interesting, man. I don't know if I could do that, but I guess maybe if I was like you said, like you were in
In
that
the environment,
environment,
yeah.
and you're just kind of living.
Well, although they did get a baboon the next day, we came back,
Yeah.
and I did not want to eat that. Like that thing was gross. It smelled bad. It smelled like a human. It looked like a human.
Ugh, that's
I was
weird.
not. I was not into that. So
Yeah.
I didn't eat any of
Yeah. I don't know if I could either. I don't
that.
know. Thanks for sharing that experience. I'm glad the listeners are going to be able to maybe be either a little grossed out or a little intrigued from
Uh,
from your experience there in Eastern Tanzania. Um, moving on, we got a few questions left that I want to hit. How to start a tier one? I'm going to just say carnivore / animal based,
Yeah.
but like a tier one carnivore or nose to tail diet.
Yeah.
What's those first steps?
Well, first steps is just cutting out sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
some people try to go it out right away, but you got to
Hmm.
cut out the sugar and the processed foods. I mean, you can kind of do it more gradually, but really, I don't think you need to do like strict carnivore for like long periods of time. I think it's a good reset. We've said that a couple times, so
Hmm.
maybe you can ease into it, start cutting out, really sugary foods, packaged foods. Then you can start lowering your carbs. Then you can, try carnivore, reset your gut, do something for a few months, and
Yep.
then go to sapien, right? Add some of these other foods, fermented vegetables, avocado, mushrooms, and then kind of add foods back and see how they work for you. And I mean, I'm doing sapien for life. Like I have no desire to change. I mean, there's just
To
no
be
reason.
full carnivore, to be anything else other than
Yeah.
what you stated. I like that though. I like that form of your diet, sapien. It's interesting from going to like listening to somebody like Paul, who's like
Mhm.
so severe about it, and
Yeah.
then now transitioning over, to you, and you. I mean, it's very similar, but you're
Yeah.
not on the same
Oh
exact
no.
path as him.
Paul's his own guy. I don't think
Yes.
everyone's going to be able to do that. He does it for specific reasons. He talks about his autoimmune conditions, and he'll have problems if he goes off. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that, and obviously where he came from and his what he might be dealing with and why he decided to switch to carnivore.
Mhm.
Moving on here, Brian. So obviously you're known as Food Lies on Instagram, and the name of the documentary is no other than Food Lies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to take this time here at the end of the podcast to just go over uh, your top 10 foods. Obviously, we talked about the refined sugars, the oil,
Mhm.
the seed oils, stuff like that, the sugars. Talk about maybe like if you had to name 10
Okay.
groups, foods, rapid fire. Go.
Okay. So yes, this is hard because sugar, flour, oils, and everything.
It's
But what I'll
that's
go for is most people know what junk food is.
true. Hmm.
Okay. So I'm not going to tell people to avoid junk food because I'm just going to say it's bad. Avoid it. Right. Everyone
Right.
knows it. Don't go get milkshakes and fries. But the foods I'll say that the hidden junk foods, these are the things you need to avoid, are the ones that are propped up as health foods. A lot of them are. So
Mm.
it's pasta, it's acai bowls, like
Yeah.
smoothies, it's bagels, it's low fat yogurt, uh, just any of these foods, these processed foods are low fat, they're high in carb, they're processed.
Yeah.
They they're like, oh, I'm so healthy, like I'm eating like an acai bowl, like I'm eating, um, I don't know, some bogus like bread, banana bread,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
uh, avocado toast. It's like you don't need the toast.
Yeah.
Like the avocado is healthy. Eat.
Throw some eggs
So
with it or something.
exactly. So I
Extra
guess it's
eggs.
this whole category of food is these low fat, high carb, low protein foods that are packaged, processed, and
Mm.
propped up as health foods, and none of
Mm.
them are good. It's the fake. It's like the biggest scam.
It
I
is.
think it's one of the big problems with the last 60 years and our health is these foods are kind of the base of the food pyramid, and they were propped up as healthy, and look what happened.
Yeah, I like how you put that too. You said to start all of that, you said that the junk foods, we all know what junk foods are. We know to stay away from the
Yeah.
junk foods, the basic things, but it's the health foods that are disguising as low quality, low nutrient foods.
Yep.
That's
It's bars like
it,
health bars. Anything that's a health bar is probably not a health bar.
and it's all the marketing that,
Yeah.
by the companies that they're trying to push. And we talked
Exactly.
about that earlier, being a big cycle, why
Yeah.
we're dealing with these diseases. So one of my final questions, the name of my show is The Relentless Life. I usually ask everybody at the very end how to live relentlessly, something along those lines. But since this
Mhm.
is a health edition of my podcast, how would one of my listeners go about living a relentlessly healthy life? Like, how do you go about
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Being relentless,
Okay.
Brian.
I have a tagline that will encompass all this.
Sure.
Eat densely, move intensely. Okay. Eat densely, move intensely. Eat
I like
less, move
that.
more is stupid. It means
Yeah.
nothing. It
Hmm.
means absolutely nothing. It means to be rich, spend less money than you make, or
Yeah.
make more money than you spend. It's
Yeah.
meaningless. Eat less, move
Yeah.
more is the stupidest thing ever. Eat densely, move intensely means you eat nutrient dense foods. That means not eating sugar, flour, oil. It means eating animal foods. It means eating whole foods. And move intensely is, I think, is a great way to efficiently be fit. Like, you want to build muscle, you don't have to be a guy on stage like you used to do.
Right. Right.
You just want muscle mass. I don't think cardio, doing endless cardio is that great. It's
Hmm.
fine. I say move intensely, man. Do some push-ups. Get a weight. I have a 40-pound weight vest. I'm out there
There
doing
you go.
dips, pull-ups, all
Nice.
these things, right? Like, go to failure, sprint. I mean, it doesn't take time. I do 15 to 20-minute workouts and I'm done.
That's it.
Done.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that at the end of the show, because we didn't talk. We talked was diet,
Uh-huh.
nutrition, agriculture, and that's part of the equation is staying fit, staying healthy. Not just staying fit, but more along the lines of, like you said, move intensely, move like our ancestors, as Paul always preaches. And with the 40-pound weight vest, go. I have a big monster truck tire out front. That might be a little bit excessive, but like flipping the tire for
Yeah.
100 yards, or doing something that's going to eradicate those inner stressors that are going to make our body have to fight back,
Yeah.
have to fight back against what's going on now in the pandemic, COVID. Like, if I guarantee you, if you were to put some study down on an individual who had 3 to 4 days of a 20-minute workout, like you had mentioned, with
Mm.
these hormetic stressors, versus somebody with the same diets versus somebody
Yeah.
that didn't do those, that sat on the couch after work with their
Yeah.
TV on, that person that was exercising 3 days a week is probably a lot less likely to
Oh
either
my God.
get COVID or fight
Not,
it. Like,
well, yeah. So my another unscientific thing. There's a couple 100,000 people that I'll put in my little health space with Paul and
sure.
Sean. Another, yeah. Um, I haven't heard of many people getting COVID, and if they did, it was like a mild cold for like a day.
Hmm.
And so that kind of is this little thought experiment you're talking about,
Sure.
because I mean, I'm sure there are people got it. I'm sure it's sadly, things happen, but it seems to me that generally all the people who did the things you're talking about, because they're follow us, they do they're in this. I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing to witness that during what's going on. You put the news on; it's on every news station, and they got you worried. Granted, for the first few months, we were all a little skeptical what's
Hmm.
going on, but as time goes by, you realize we're the human race. We've overcome so many leaps and bounds, and we're
Yeah,
still here.
absolutely.
We've evolved to these incredible beings, and people just lose track of that.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy that we were able to have the conversation we had today to discuss I think we really went everywhere. We touched on many different things. So to end my podcast, I want to know, for myself and for my followers and my listeners, how do we further follow you, further support you, join your sapien movement? Like with me, I have this relentless life movement going on, but you have an
Hmm.
awesome following with what you're doing. How do we do that? How do we support
Yeah.
you?
Sapien.org. That's the easy one. You just go to sapien.org and there's all links to all this stuff and the Food Lies film. And I'm on Instagram as Food Lies. And yeah, we have a tribe, the Sapien tribe, and we hang out. We do like Zoom calls, and you get all these other things going on. But yeah, Nose to Tail is linked there. But it's just sapien.org, man. I'm trying to make this big. The Sapien community's
I think
growing.
you will.
It
I think
is,
you.
and these people, like, we are a team. I'm trying to be kind of the connector, right?
Yeah.
I'm friends with all these guys like Sean and Paul and all these people. It's like I'm trying to bring them together and just
Awesome.
let's do it with Sapien. This is a movement.
Absolutely. It is a movement, and you're doing an incredible job at leading it. Like I said in the very beginning, I just stumbled across who you are and your podcast, and I'm certainly going to be not just a fan, but hopefully a friend. We'll
Yeah.
stay connected, and if there's anything that I can do on my end, I know that I'm in my own little realm of what I do, and I
Mhm.
look up to people like you and Paul. But it's my hopes that one day I'll be able to be doing what you're doing and be leaving the impact that you're leaving.
Absolutely, man.
So it's
Just keep
inspiring.
going. Keep
Yeah,
going.
absolutely, absolutely, man. Well, Brian, it's It's been a privilege today to have our conversation. We're just over an hour and 20 minutes. It's been an awesome conversation. Before I let you go, before I thank you for everything that you shared with us today, is there any last comment that you want to share
Oh
with?
man. Other than eat densely, move intensely, I'd say, I mean, just do it. It's like your health is so important. Just realize that it's super important, and that what you eat is probably the biggest driver in health. So just
Sure.
do something about it. Just know
Yeah,
that. Just know that what you eat is that important, and it'll catch up to you long term.
absolutely. I think that a lot of people are going to really take something from what you said there, especially at the end of eating densely and moving intensely. That's it right there. That's the synopsis of
Yeah.
what we discussed today. So, Brian, thank you so much. Until next time, my friend.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, thanks.